I'm 81 years old. My name is Hazel. After 6 months of my son not returning my calls, I said one sentence that changed everything. The next day, he was at my door with coffee and apologies. No, I didn't guilt him. I didn't yell. I didn't even mention how much it hurt. What I said was so simple, so direct, that it cut through years of tension. Now he calls me twice a week, without fail. My daughter, who used to send only birthday cards, visits every month. I'm going to give you the exact words I used, but I need to warn you, if you just parrot these words without understanding the power behind them, they'll fall flat. Your children will sense the uncertainty in your voice, and nothing will change. This isn't about manipulation or emotional blackmail. It's about a calm boundary that commands respect. Before I give you the sentence, you need to understand why it works. I noticed it first at Mark's college graduation. Everyone crowded around him, friends, professors, his girlfriend's family. I stood back, clutching my purse with both hands, smiling. When I finally reached him, he hugged me quickly. "Mom, can you hold this?" He handed me his cap and gown, then turned away to talk to someone more interesting. That pattern never stopped. For 30 years, Mark has known exactly how to get what he needs from me. A sympathetic ear when his marriage hit rough patches, emergency babysitting when his sitter canceled, even financial help when he decided to renovate his kitchen. "Mom, I really need to talk," he'd say, and I'd drop everything. But when I'd mention my garden club or a book I was reading, his eyes would drift to his phone. Yeah, listen, I should get going." If I took too long telling a story, he'd cut in. "Mom, can you get to the point?" As if my thoughts were an inconvenience. As if I was an inconvenience. I swallowed the hurt, told myself he was busy, important job, growing family. I trained myself to speak less, ask less, need less. I was present in his life, but not as a person with thoughts that mattered, just a resource. Background noise. Maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was a Tuesday afternoon in March. The daffodils I'd planted with Richard 40 years ago were blooming again. I sat on our bench, my bench now, and called Mark. The yellow flowers made me remember how Richard would bring me a single bloom each spring, tucked into his shirt pocket. I needed to share this memory with someone who knew him, who knew us. "Mark, the daffodils are up," I said when he answered. "Your father always said, 'Mom, I'm actually heading into a meeting. Can this wait? Unless it's something important?'" Important, as if memories aren't important, as if I'm not important. "No," I said quietly. "Nothing important." I hung up. I sat there for a long time, the phone heavy in my lap. When did I become someone whose thoughts don't count? When did Mom become synonymous with interruption? Something had to change. I just didn't know how to make it happen. First, I tried the guilt approach. The next time Mark called asking for a favor, I told him how hurt I felt when he dismissed me. I reminded him of all I'd done, the midnight fevers, college tuition, the down payment on his first house. "Mom, that's not fair," he said, voice tight. "I'm really busy right now." He was defensive, angry. We didn't speak for 2 weeks after that. When we did, nothing had changed. Then I tried disappearing. I stopped calling, stopped answering on the first ring. I thought he'd notice, wonder, reach out. 3 weeks passed before my phone rang. "Mom, can you watch the kids this weekend? Our sitter canceled." Not "I've missed you" or "How are you?"
I felt trapped between being treated like furniture and losing my son entirely. Neither choice seemed bearable. I called my sister Jean that evening. At 86, she's never sugar-coated anything in her life. "I don't know what to do anymore," I told her, voice cracking. "Mark treats me like I'm invisible unless he needs something." Jean was quiet for a moment. "Hazel, I'm going to tell you something you won't like. You taught him this pattern." "I what?" "Every time he ignored you and you accepted it, you taught him it was okay. Every time he called only when he needed something and you jumped to help, you reinforced it." I started to protest, but she cut me off. "Stop leading with your hurt feelings. Stop arguing about respect in general terms. That just makes him defensive. You need to name the specific behavior and what needs to change." Jean told me about her friend Dorothy, who had transformed her relationship with her daughter using a specific approach. "Call her," Jean insisted. "She'll tell you exactly what to say." The thought of calling a stranger about my family problems felt humiliating, but I was tired, bone tired, of being treated like an afterthought in my son's life. "Give me her number," I said.
Dorothy answered on the second ring. No small talk, just wisdom. "Your son has learned that your feelings are optional to consider," she said. "When you try guilt, he feels accused, so he defends himself. When you withdraw, he learns he only needs to contact you when he wants something." She explained her approach like she was teaching me to bake bread. Simple steps, clear purpose. You need to target the specific behavior, not attack who he is as a person. Give him a clear direction he can follow right now, and keep your voice steady, not angry, not pleading. What Dorothy called pattern interruption with certainty made perfect sense. When someone expects you to follow the old script and you suddenly don't, it creates a reset moment. Most important, she said, after you say the words, stop talking. Let silence do the work. Don't explain, don't apologize, don't fill the space. That silence is where the change happens. I wrote down her exact words on the back of an electric bill. I wrote Dorothy's sentence on an index card and propped it against my bathroom mirror. Each morning, I practiced saying the words out loud. At first, they felt foreign in my mouth, awkward and stiff. This can't possibly work, I told my reflection. It's too simple, too small to change anything. But I kept practicing, day after day, until the words began to feel like mine, until my voice stopped shaking when I said them. What changed wasn't just the words, it was me. I realized I wasn't trying to control Mark or manipulate him into caring. I was simply deciding what I would accept in my life, reclaiming my dignity one sentence at a time. A week later, my phone rang. Mark's name lit up the screen. I knew this was it, the moment to use what I'd learned. My heart pounded as I answered. "Mom, thank God you answered. Listen, I need you to take the kids this weekend. Jessica's mother was supposed to, but she canceled, and we have this work thing we can't miss." No hello, no how are you? Just another demand, delivered with the assumption I had nothing better to do with my weekend than solve his problems. I felt the familiar urge to say yes immediately, to keep the peace, to be the good mother who's always available. Instead, I took a breath and said the words I'd practiced. "I'm happy to discuss that, but I need you to speak to me with respect first." Then I did the hardest part. I stopped talking. Complete silence filled the line. After what felt like minutes but was probably 10 seconds, Mark sputtered, "What?" "Mom, I am being respectful. I just need to know if you can watch the kids." I didn't argue, didn't explain. I simply repeated, "I'm happy to discuss that, but I need you to speak to me with respect first." Another pause. "I'm sorry," he finally said, his voice different. "How are you, Mom? I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Would you be able to help us out with the kids this weekend?" After we hung up, I noticed my hands were shaking. The sentence wasn't magic. Mark hadn't suddenly transformed into a different person. But something fundamental had shifted in our dynamic. The real work, I realized, would be consistency. 3 weeks later, we had a family dinner at Mark's house. His wife, Jessica, their 2 children, and my daughter, Elaine, were all there. The conversation flowed around work, school, neighborhood gossip. During dessert, I mentioned I'd joined a memoir writing group at the senior center. "I've started writing about when your father and I first moved to Oak Ridge, the old neighborhood before." "Mom," Mark cut in with a laugh, glancing at Jessica, "nobody wants to hear ancient history right now. Emma, tell Grandma about your science project." The table went quiet. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. The old me would have smiled weakly, folded my hands in my lap, and disappeared into the background. Instead, I looked directly at Mark and said evenly, "I'm happy to hear about Emma's project, but I need you to speak to me with respect first." Then I stopped. No explanation. No nervous laugh to ease the tension.
I finished my story. The conversation resumed, but something had fundamentally changed. My boundary worked not just in private calls, but in front of the whole family. Over the next 3 months, small changes accumulated like pennies in a jar. Mark began calling on Tuesday evenings. not because he needed babysitting or advice, just to talk. "What's new with you?" he'd ask, and then he'd actually listen. When I shared an opinion about the news or a book I'd read, he'd pause before responding. No more talking over me or changing the subject. At Emma's birthday party, Mark's brother-in-law interrupted me mid-sentence. Before I could say anything, Mark stepped in. "Hold on, Jim." Mom was talking. The look of surprise on Jim's face mirrored how I felt. Even 10-year-old Emma noticed. When she rolled her eyes at one of my stories, Mark gently corrected her. "Grandma deserves our respect," he said quietly. None of this happened because Mark suddenly became a different person. It happened because I became different. I demonstrated self-respect consistently, and he responded to that boundary. I won't pretend this makes every relationship perfect. My daughter Elaine and I still struggle sometimes. But that automatic dismissiveness, the kind that slowly erodes your dignity, that has stopped. Tonight, I want you to write down these 9 words. I'm happy to discuss that, but with respect first. The next time someone dismisses you, a child, a doctor, a store clerk, use this sentence. Don't explain it. Don't apologize for it. Just say it and wait. If you're tired of being brushed aside, leave your age in the comments. Let's remind each other how many decades of wisdom we carry. Tomorrow, I'll share another tool I use when medical professionals try to talk around me instead of to me. It's gentle but unmistakable. Remember, at our age, we've earned the right to be heard. I'll see you tomorrow.